Undoubtedly, one of the most useful pieces of furniture to grace any room is an ottoman, or simply a box with a hinged lid. You can sit on it, and it's a valuable storage solution as well. You can coordinate it with your room, and I'm going to show you how to line and cover an ottoman, and the secret's going to be finishing it without any tacks or stitches showing. I'm going to demonstrate this on this charming little vintage sewing box, just for ease of demonstration. But the process is exactly the same whether you're doing a small box like this or a larger piece. You're going to start with lining the box first, and the outside cover is second. So the first stage is to put the base cover in. If it's a bit of an old box like this one, line it with a bit of wadding. Make the base lining come up the sides, and you can finish just to a raw edge because it's all going to be hidden by the sides. And hammer those away. I then lined the long sides by placing the back tack card in the bottom, bringing the fabric up and round, and finishing with that raw edge coming around the side like that. Let me show you that technique in more detail with the end panel. Making sure I match my pattern to the other side. And enough to come over. We use a back tack card because it gives us a really nice crisp edge. If I just put a tack in and a tack in and pulled this up, it might bag out. Force the back tack card right down to the base and tack through the back tack card and the fabric all in one go. As a general rule of thumb, just leave your tacks temporary so that you can check that everything is straight and even before you hammer them away. A good way to see if you've got your pattern straight is to not necessarily look at the middle, but on a square piece like this, have a look at the sides and check that the pattern meets the sides evenly. Hammer them away, but make sure that you've got a nice tack holding the back tack card tight into the corner. Some of the older boxes aren't finished off very well, so we're just going to line underneath the top cover to give a little bit of softness. But what's most important is that you don't let any of the wadding come over the top of the frame. You want the lid to sit snugly. So just trim it to the edge. Your wadding doesn't need to be tacked down. He just gets trapped underneath. And you can bring your fabric around, and once again you can finish it to a raw edge because it's all going to be hidden. But don't do your tack too close to the edge. Come away from it a little bit because the top cover wants to come and hide it. The corner edges just get tucked in. You can use your regulator or any weapon you like to get it nice and tight. General rule of thumb, again, start from the middle, work your way out, and just do temporary tacks until you're absolutely certain that you don't need to alter them. So a nice bit of tension, out and round, like that. If you've got excess fabric to trim away, rather than just chop down it without really knowing where you need to finish it, pop it into the corner, fold it back on itself. That's your finished edge. You mustn't cut down there, but you can chop away any excess. And as you can see, I'm actually chopping away my guideline, which told me which way up the fabric went and which was the wrong side. Sometimes having too much fabric is almost as bad as not having enough. So do trim away the excess if you need to. Just for a bit of fun, I'm using a coordinating fabric for my outside of my box. I've marked it with an arrow which points to the top of the fabric and indicates the reverse side. I'm just going to make a fold in the fabric and offer it up on the right side and make sure that my stripes are exactly lined up and centered. But to hide the tacks, I need to invert the fabric and with another piece of back tack card, lay that in close enough to the edge so that it's supported on the wood. If you have it too far over, it's all going to be a bit loose. If I have it too far back, you might see the other tacks. So position it so that it's just a nice distance away from the edge. This piece of back tack card is going to be under quite a bit of pressure when I pull the fabric over and tack it down. So put your tacks in towards that folded edge there, so that when you pull the fabric over, it won't peel the card over. When you pull that over, I've got a good fixing, I'm not peeling the card over. Whilst it's really important to get your tacks on that inside edge so the back tack card doesn't peel over, you must be careful not to let your tack head come proud of the edge, otherwise you'll see it sticking out like a lump there. If you run out of back tack card, it's very easy to join. You just put a tack into the end of one piece and then butt a new piece on so that you can't see the join and tack right into the corner. If you can't get hold of back tack card, you just need a fairly substantial piece of card cut into strips with a nice straight edge, and that will do your back tacking for you. This particular little box has got quite an unusual feature in the corner with this fillet protruding. I'm making a feature of it by back tacking some rather thin single piping around it, but you might find with your box that it actually just comes to a plain corner. So you might like to put your piping right on the corner, again back tacking it into place before you bring your fabric for the side over your wadding, down and round and tacked under, neatened, and then ladder stitched into that edge there. Once you've pulled your last panel round and tacked it at the bottom, ladder stitch down your single piping, you can pop a nice robust bottoming fabric over to hide all the raw edges. It's much easier to work on the lid if you've detached it from the box first of all. With this piece, I've decided to cover just the lid top first and then add a detail of some single piping and a contrasting band to go around the outside. But you could have brought your top cover all the way round to form the sides as well. So it's more back tacking, bringing the single piping round, then the back tack card, and tacking through the card and the single piping all in one go. As you approach the join, we've got some trimming to do, so don't go too far, otherwise you won't have the leeway to enable you to do it. I would like to line my join up right in the middle of my centre lid. I like to cross my piping over, but what I must do is trim away some of the cord because you can see the lump that it's making. So, getting hold of the sleeve of the piping and pushing just the fabric back down to reveal the cord, which can be then cut where you want to finish, and make the other side do the same. You may have to open up a bit of your stitching, get hold of the cord, slide it back and make those two cords meet. You then slide the sleeve back, but it's flattened out now so it won't cause a lump. Lay them over so they butt together. Bring your back tack card all the way through. And you've made a good join that's nice and flat. It's now time to add the band to feature around the outside edge, and we can use the back tack trick again. But this time we must make sure that the back tack card and the fabric are pushed hard up to the single piping. If you allow your back tack card at this stage to slip, you're going to see the back tack card underneath. So, forcing that card hard up to the edge. You can't see it, but you can feel the lump of the piping cord. And again, tack towards the top edge of the card so that when you bring this fabric round, it doesn't peel over. Temporary tack it at first. Just check that you've got all your back tack card in the right place and that you can't see any underneath. Make sure you've hammered all your tacks well away. You must never ever hammer a tack away through fabric, you'll make a hole in it. With all the other layers, you're bound to get a little bit of folding appearing. So just take the opportunity now to trim this away. It doesn't matter about any raw edges, it's all going to be hidden. Then, using some wadding, soften your fabric away from all that unevenness, and then pull the band over without the wadding wrinkling up. Pull round and down and tack the band around the bottom of the box lid. Pulling down, keeping it nice and smooth. So just coming round the corner. So I'm positioning these tacks far enough away from this outside edge so that they will be hidden by the lining of the lid. Just a little fold here to lose the excess around the corner and put a tack through the fold. We've brought our bands around and tacked them onto the base, and it's now time just to finish the one seam that is left. To do this, we're going to use a little curved slipping needle and some strong linen thread. I'm afraid your sewing machine thread just isn't strong enough. You mustn't be able to break it in your hands. You can make your thread slightly stronger by waxing it, just running it over a candle. So always start at the top and work your way down, because if you gain any excess fabric, you can lose it underneath, whereas if you started at the bottom and worked your way up, the back tack card stops you from tucking any more in. Start by taking the slipping needle through a fold on one side. Bring him out and take him straight across to the other side. Use a slip knot to start off. 2 twines parallel, short one back on itself to make the D, round and through, pull on the short one, pull on the long one, and just encourage that seam to knit together. I'm just going to tuck a little bit of that fabric in with the regulator. There. Ladder stitch. Take the curved needle through the fold on one side, run along in the fold, pull the needle and thread through, go straight across to the other side and go into the fold and run along and come out. Where you pop out of this side, go directly across into the other fold. And it's called ladder stitch because it looks like the rungs of a ladder, but when you pull that up tight, you can't see the stitches. If you did more of a slip stitch down here, you would see it. So it's really important to go straight across into that fold, run along. And the most important thing is you must pull this stitch up tight. If it gapes like that, you're going to see the stitches. You pull them up tight and they disappear. So finish your ladder stitch to the underneath. And a good trick to finish your thread off is to wrap it tightly around a tack head. Hammer that tack away. And that thread is nicely secure. The next stage is to line the lid of the box, and once again we can use our back tack trick so that when we bring our fabric over you can't see it. You might find that some of these boxes are a little bit rough, and that roughness would show through over a period of time. Place a little bit of skin wadding in just to soften the fabric away from the wooden edge. Bring your fabric over, carefully making sure you keep the skin wadding tucked in, and let's get it nice and tight and straight. Neaten it, take a pull and you're going to pin it into place in preparation for ladder stitch. It's quite a fine fabric, so I'm just using fine pins. Push the pins through the fold, turn it and slide it along so that it holds. First of all, pulling against the back tack edge. Start from the middle, work your way out. And before I seal off the sides, I'm just going to pop a little memento back into this lid. It's a bit of the fabric that came off it originally and a little bit of detail, a little bit of information for the next generation who might find it. When you get to the corner, just parcel it up so there's no roughness or raw edges showing. Before you start your ladder stitch, just check that your fabric is really even. Once again, it's quite difficult to see if you've got it in the middle, but you can tell by looking at the sides that the same amount of pattern is showing on each side. Then you can ladder stitch in the normal way, all around the edge that isn't held in place yet. You must prevent your lid from folding right back and breaking your hinges, and we do that by placing a stay. You could use a decorative cord. Take a strip of fabric and with right sides together you're going to machine across one end and down the side. You must leave the other end open. You can then reverse it. So just start it off by trying to tuck the machined end in with your fingertips. But to reverse it fully, pop your blunt end of your regulator in and against a firm surface, pull that sleeve, push that all the way through. By reversing your tube, you've got a strap with no raw edges showing, and you can nail it on with a decorative feature so that it holds the lid in place. Final feature, a little handle or a tassel just to give you something to help you open the lid.